Boomsy!
We're live.
Hey everybody, welcome to the MGF Podcast. This is episode 27 of the show with a temporary name where we talk movies, shows, games, Lego, and whatever else. Joining me as always is Tait.
What is up? What is up, gamers?
We got Lego Yoda in the house.
Do we? Is he here?
You're Lego Yoda, Tait.
I am? I thought I was Tarzan and Lizard Man.
You're all three. You're the best of all three worlds. You're next generation.
There are three worlds. Lizards, Tarzan, and Lego Yoda. I'm the Avatar, master of the three worlds. We have a good show for you guys today. A lot of Star Wars news, but more so real-world Star Wars news, stuff that's happening behind the camera. We have some Ross MGF news, and we have a cool ending for you guys.
Yeah, so of course I'm still working on Endgame, as I will be until the end of the year. So I have made some really good progress on Black Widow, as you guys saw with this week's making of video, or actually last week's now, and it is going really well. I just have to paint the legs, and I have to do her staff, like that, you know, her batons that connect and become a staff. And a little bit more paint detail on the upper torso, on the wrists, and the front and back of the corners of the torso. And Black Widow will be a finished figure in no time once I get through those three things. And then it's on to Ronin and on to the next Endgame showcase, and it's been going pretty well. And yeah, I got the first teaser out last week. You saw that, the episode before. Yeah, so it would have been last week's episode 26 when I posted that first teaser. And it's going pretty well, man.
Excellent, Ross.
Yeah, dude.
This is awesome, dude. You're doing
and I've got a pretty cool video coming up this week, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, it's pretty epic. Not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
I give it a thumbs up, and then one half a thumbs up. You know what I mean? Not two full thumbs up. You know what I'm saying?
Just half. It's the emoji just sliced in half.
No, that's 2 thumbs up for me, Ross. Your upcoming video is gonna be awesome. Omega, I can answer that question. He's using an Assassin's Creed hood that kind of came... You said it was kind of messed up when it came to you, right?
Yeah, so the hood that I'm using for Ronin is going to be a 3D printed piece, which I posted on Patreon, and then it's also in the making of video with Black Widow toward the end, so you can actually see it on the channel, I think. I might have shown it in that video. But they're basically 3D printed Assassin's Creed hoods in black, and so they've got this really heavy 3D print texture on them that I'm going to have to sand off, and a bunch of other modifications that I'll have to do, carving and among other things, to make it minifigure friendly, and friendly to the painted faces that I'll be doing for Ronin. So I do have the hood. As far as the other accessories, I still have to figure out how I'm going to do his torso vest, how I'm going to do the sheath for his sword, and...
it's all Play-Doh. It's all Play-Doh, and I'm doing it all. I'm doing it all. That's the secret. I'm
outsourcing work to Tait, and he will be sculpting all the remaining accessories out of Play-Doh for Ronin and the rest of the Endgame showcases in general.
Will they be minifigure sized? No. Will they look good? No. Will they be done? Yes. Speaking of outsourcing, MGF, we have some knockoffs. Some cool looking knockoffs. Dude, these are awesome.
Yeah, so I have an addiction. You guys might have seen I posted a knockoffs video of the Thanos figure a while back, comparing the one that was ripped directly off of mine, and then I did the Korg knockoff video recently, and I have been collecting knockoffs, Tait, because there are two things. There are two things that get me to buy knockoff. You'll notice that I never buy like regular Captain Americas or regular Iron Man suits or any regular characters that Lego has made. But I do buy the characters they haven't made or the characters that have useful pieces. There are just so many examples of so many different knockoffs that have so many useful parts, and I'm always looking at potential. You know, I look at one of these knockoffs and I'm like, look at those pieces. If I ever want to make that figure, whether it's on my roadmap or on my list or not, I'm getting that knockoff just to have that door open in case I ever do want to make a custom of that. I have the really great parts. And so for me, buying knockoffs is always about the parts. but then also to fill in gaps in my collection. So I wanted to do a Spider-Verse setup, and so I did that. Or in this case, Lego, or not Lego, the knockoff companies made a really good knockoff of Heimdall, which I actually got recently. It's not in this photo, but you can see it on my Twitter. And I think I posted it on Instagram too. Or like these really great Loki scepters and Thanos blades. And the Thanos blade is a little bit big, and I'm hoping to get the smaller variant that comes from another one of these sellers that they made.
I don't know, Ross. This size looks a little better to me because the other one looks a little small, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one, I mean, even if you shaved it down a little bit, I mean, I still think that this one would work a little bit better.
I definitely want to try out both. But yeah. So I did a whole stream on Instagram. I got like a whole big order of knockoffs in, because usually I would just get them from the resellers on eBay. You know, I'd never actually go on the knockoff sellers website that they use, the big Asian-based website called AliExpress. So I finally made an account over there, though, and just placed like a huge order, and got like a pretty good Instagram stream out of it. I mean, when I was doing it, I was like, man, this would have been great for the main channel. So I'm excited, because in the future, I actually just yesterday placed another big order for the entire Iron Legion. So yesterday, Tate, I went on there and I was like, I got a bunch of the Iron Legion suits. You can see them in that picture. I got like a good 5 or 6 of them with the first order, but then I was like, man, I do want to get a few more of Lego's Iron Man Hall of Armor sets and do my own wine cellar Hall of Armor, like, you know, Iron Legion underground room from Iron Man 3. But I was like, I need the rest of the Iron Legion, and I checked the AliExpress websites, and I was like, oh yeah, they did make every other suit. So I was pulling it up and looking at every Iron Man 3 Iron Legion suit, and then comparing them to the ones found on AliExpress, and I was like, yo, they're not all accurate. The color schemes are pretty off on some of these, but they did make pretty much every Iron Legion suit except for the Mark 8 and like the ones that Lego themselves have made. So
yeah, but that's remediable. You just get the like once, and you make yourself a Mark 8, make a video out of it. Boom, easy. I'll do the sculpt and play that.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Mark 8 would just be a quick purist one too, just like to fill that slot. And you know, you got 42 suits. The Lego Iron Man Hall of Armor holds 10, so get 3 more of those, and you got the full Iron Man 3 wine cellar. And you might remember from Iron Man 3 how the whole Iron Legion was stored underneath his Malibu mansion in the mountain. Of course. Yeah, dude, it was sick. And so I've always wanted to have the Iron Legion, obviously, who doesn't? And so I'm never going to make the full Iron Legion. I don't think it's humanly possible for me to make like 30 more Iron Man suits. However, getting a sick display going with all the knockoff suits that are at least somewhat accurate and look really good when you're not obviously holding them and looking too close at the cheap printing and cheap plastic, it's going to be pretty cool, and it's going to make for a pretty sick video. This is also the first time talking about this. So you guys in the chat, Tim Sargent, Stroke, and Golden Light, Spaceman, you guys are the first to hear of this. But yeah.
Well, hey, these guys want to know about my tortillas, and I have a proclamation. If this podcast ever gets big enough to where Ross and I are recognized, well, Ross, you already are recognized in public, but where I'm recognized in public, one day, I will open a taco cart for one day in Los Angeles, California, and we'll make tortillas and tacos for all who show up and know of the podcast. Now that could be never. That could be in 30 years.
It could be in August 2020.
Sure. Sure. Oh yeah, Ross. Yeah. We
totally forgot.
The podcast has to get super big before August 2020, and Ross and I will pass out tortillas together.
Dude, we'll just do it like right outside Celebration.
Yes.
Like we'll just find a spot where we can get a quick permit and just be like, yeah, dude, Ross and Tate's podcast set up.
Should I bring my guitar to Celebration and just play Star Wars music out in front and like try to get tips? Because I know a bunch of Star Wars music on my guitar. Like I know Twin Suns, I know I know.
Yeah, people will walk by and see the cup on the ground and be like, "Oh, look, it's Tarzan."
This is a Star Wars convention, not Disney convention, you loser.
They just kick you over. Oh,
So
no.
Stroke asked us what we're doing for Halloween. I know I'm gonna be MGF, and I'm pretty sure MGF's gonna be Lego Yoda. So
Yeah, so usually on Halloween, if we ever had trick-or-treaters, which we don't, you don't get trick-or-treaters in the apartment complexes where we were living, and then now we live up a really steep driveway that nobody's going to climb up to actually come and ring our doorbell. So I can promise you we're not going to have a single trick-or-treater this year. And so, either way, what I always do is I'll just pull things from my collection. So like my giant stormtrooper helmet, and then I'll just wear that. Or maybe this time I'll like wear the Infinity Gauntlet too, and I'll be a stormtrooper Infinity Gauntlet lightsaber wielding badass.
I'm gonna be Kermit for Halloween. I like that idea. Kermit with the Infinity Gauntlet, Ross. Remember that?
That was so surprising on Minecraft when you had that. I was like, what?
Oh yeah. So for reference, guys, I had a Kermit skin in Minecraft, and it was just normal Kermit. And then one day I put the Infinity Gauntlet on him. And Ross is like,
I have the power of the 6 Infinity Stones. You can't do anything to me, MGF.
The best was when Tait, like we were doing some crazy stuff in Minecraft, trying to get villagers all the way through the nether. It was nuts. And just listening to Tait rant in Kermit's voice, I was just picturing Kermit mining in the nether, and it was like the best thing ever.
Ross, we gotta play Minecraft again. Do you ever play a month? Like a month or so, yeah. Oh man, that's always a good time.
Dude, are all the villagers dead?
No, because I have my underground ones.
Okay. Oh man.
Oh man, guys, hey, if we can get, I really want to do a Minecraft server, like do a server host with like 60 people. I'd love to do that. Like not the realm, Ross. Like the realm could be like a separate thing, or just cancel that. Yeah. But like a server with plugins and stuff.
Right, because a server you need more control. Like I don't think realms are really meant for that many people.
No, realms are meant for you and your buddies.
Yeah.
But yeah. What do you guys think about a big Minecraft realm for the podcast one day? Or not Minecraft realm, but Minecraft server for the podcast. I think that could be cool. There'd be rules like anti-grief rules and those kind of policies.
Yeah, just basic stuff. It would just be like permissions, so you can't like grief spawn. You can't,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be a lot of fun though. That could be
cool.
Man. Anyway, moving on. Actual news that we have to talk about. Spider-Man has come home.
Yeah, so literally only 1 month later, they came to a new agreement. We got the news, and
I'm sorry to interrupt you this quick into it, dude, but
yeah,
we know that. Come on, are you kidding me? It's so convenient.
I know.
It's so convenient. We were saying this months ago, or a month ago, Ross, that this was all for buzz. This was all for buzz, dude. This was never gonna last. I had said that.
So I think it was either all for buzz or like they were in negotiations, and obviously these negotiations were gonna happen anyway. Everybody knew that the contract was up with Far From Home, and so they were gonna have to renegotiate. Everybody knew these negotiations were happening, but then maybe somebody found out about it, and they tried to, and then Deadliners, whoever, spun it into something that it really wasn't, and so then Disney and Sony just decided to maybe, or whoever, Disney might have tried to capitalize on this to gain leverage over Sony, or Sony might have been trying to gain leverage over Disney, or they both just collaborated and were like, let's see how big the demand for MCU Spidey really is. Let's see if we can really get a good test going here.
And what did they do? And what did they do?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely possible that one of those scenarios happened.
Yeah. Omega, dude. I mean, when you think about it, dude, 2 more films, that's nuts. Think about what a film is. Right? Think about how long it takes to make a film. Spider-Man has been in how many MCU movies? 5?
5 in 3 years.
5 in 3 years plus 2 more. I almost said Tobey Maguire. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is appearing as Spider-Man at least 7 times.
Yeah, and that's something that I was really like, when this all came down in the first place, it's like, as much as it would have sucked for Tom Holland's Spider-Man to abruptly exit the MCU following such a cliffhanger. You know, again, I still stand by it. You have to look back and be like, we got Spider-Man in 5 MCU movies in 3.5 years. He was in Captain America Civil War, his own movie with Iron Man, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. And oh my God.
Dude,
what a gift it has already been.
So arguably the 3 most important MCU movies.
Yeah.
Right? Besides like Iron Man 1 for starting it, but like in universe, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. Those are arguably the 3 most important movies in terms of the internal story. Right? He was in all 3 of those. Okay.
I mean, it's nuts that it even happened. Like, sometimes you gotta just stop and really, I think a lot of people by the time we got to Endgame began to take it for granted that you're watching Spider-Man on, like cruising through a battlefield with the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Stones. I mean, he's there riding a Pegasus with Valkyrie. My tongue just like totally just twisted.
Yeah. I wanna say something, and this is why people think that comic book fans are dickheads. In a way, dude, I feel like the comic book fans are entitled to that because we've seen that so many times. But when you look at the movies, that is a blessing. That is an absolute blessing.
And so the deal came out. So they signed it Thursday night, and then it was the news came out like Friday morning. And we got a bunch of statements from Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal, and also the communications officer for Sony. And they pretty much said what you would expect them to say. They're grateful to be collaborating yet again. That we're moving this, yada yada yada. But what was the most interesting about this, Tate, was Kevin Feige's statement. So he said, "I'm thrilled that Spidey's journey in the MCU will continue." The whole thing. But then his statement ended with, Spider-Man is a powerful icon and hero whose story crosses all ages and audiences around the globe. He also happens to be the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes. So as Sony continues to develop their own Spideyverse, you never know what surprises the future might hold.
That's a big yikes. That's a big yikes. I'm sorry, but that's...
Tate, that directly confirms Sony developing their own Spideyverse, really pursuing the Venom thing, and putting Tom Holland in that too. And Tate, I'm at the point now where I'm just glad and grateful that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is staying in the MCU for at least 2 more movies, and they have the opportunity to do a soft Iron Man 3 style ending for him. However,
they really need to, Ross, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they really need to make their new franchise distinct. If they just have this, if they just pick it up, like let's say we have our 3 MCU Spider-Man movies, and they just pick it up as if that happened. He experienced that. That'll feel so awkward, dude.
Experience what?
Like he experienced Homecoming, he experienced Far From Home, he experienced Infinity War, he experienced Endgame. If it's the exact same Spider-Man, dude, that'll feel awkward. And if they completely reboot him with the same actor, that'll also feel awkward. That's a lose-lose for Sony, I think, dude. I mean, that's just awkward.
Well, no, I think the implication is that they're going to continue building off of Venom and then show up in those movies.
Right. As the Spider-Man we know, which is awkward.
Right. And so, listen, man, again, I'm at the point where I'm just grateful that Spidey's in the MCU. And if Sony wants to make Venom 2 and do Venom and Carnage and Morbius or whatever characters they want to throw at it, all you have to do is just have Tom Holland show up and be like, hey, just got back from Queens or just got back from doing this. What's up? And I don't know how you get Peter Parker to San Francisco without it being Avengers related. Maybe another field trip. I mean, it's not like, he's taking field trips pretty much every freaking day with that class. But yeah, dude, it's a lot more work for Tom Holland because if they are going to do this, his workload just doubled.
Oh yeah, but
and
also his wallet.
This is a tremendous amount of pressure on him.
Yeah, but his wallet is heavier than shit, dude.
Yeah, but that doesn't make. Here's
the thing, Russ.
Yeah,
they have to meet his ramifications, right? They have to meet his comfort, his needs. They're not going to overwork their star actor. If he really does have a problem with the movie, right? he'll not breach his contract, but he'll get out of it. He's an A-list celebrity.
It's just like, two more movies that he'll be appearing in, and seemingly a third if he's going to show up in a Venom crossover event film with Spider-Man. So it's like,
they're not going to overwork the kid, dude.
I just hope they space them apart enough, because if Tom Holland starts having to bounce back and forth like every year or two, MCU, Sony, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude. I really hope that the MCU distinctly separates from the
right. So until Sony proves themselves, which I doubt they will with Venom in their movies, I think it should be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. style, where Venom is dependent on what the MCU is doing in a sense, but the MCU doesn't actually acknowledge Venom or what's going on in those movies, and they endeavor to keep them separate for now, but in the same universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way forward if Sony really wants to do this. And I think that it's important that they do an Iron Man 3 style soft ending for the character. So not the actual ending, not the hard, endgame style ending for Spider-Man, but just once he graduates high school, you just do a satisfying, so my journey has reached its end kind of ending. And then he goes on to be in the next Avengers movie, just whatever. You just need a bookend.
Mm-hmm.
Just something. Anything that isn't a cliffhanger or an abrupt cutoff. See, like, back then in 2013 when they did that ending for Iron Man 3, it was like, okay, they did that because they didn't know if RDJ was going to sign on for Age of Ultron and the future of the MCU. And I think that considering how apparently shaky, how shaky the ground really is with Sony and Disney's collaboration, I think it's important they do the same for Peter. Peter's first trilogy ends, and then he goes on to do the next Avengers movie, great. And if he gets to do another trilogy, even better. But if not, that bookend will be there at the end of that trilogy.
Right.
Sorry
to change topic, dude. I got a footage, so I'm just gonna mute my mic because I have to take off my boot.
Oh, he thought you said footage. I'm like, what footage?
No, dude, my foot is so itchy. I don't know why.
Man.
Oh, I have a rock in my shit.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the MGF. Welcome to the Itchy Foot Podcast, and today we're going to be covering Tait's Itchy Foot.
Dude, now I have an itch on my stomach? What's going on? I feel like a gorilla right now, dude.
Dude, but how crazy is it that this even? Because
Ross, I'm sorry. I'm not in this whole hype train about him coming back, dude. We all knew it was happening.
Neither am I. But I'm just saying, I wanted to acknowledge just like how awful of a thought it was moving forward in the MCU with Peter just abruptly disappearing and the Avengers never making mention of his name again, and Tom Holland being forced into the Sony movieverse instead. That just sounded like some Darkest Timeline shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
what's Darkest Timeline, though? The fact that Far From Home took, it just had to be after Endgame, dude. It's such a shame.
Yeah, it really is.
Far From Home would have been a better movie. Yeah. It would have been a better movie if they had given it some breathing room,
I just feel like they kicked. I feel like they kicked Far From Home out the door too fast.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like they had enough time to develop a good enough story, and really think all the details through. That's what Far From Home really felt like. Like they just didn't think everything through and made a good functioning movie that just kind of glosses over a little too much and leaves a little too much.
Well, they made a fun Spider-Man movie, and I appreciated that, because like I said in the podcast, you should go into a movie expecting to be entertained, and I went in there expecting to be entertained, and I was not disappointed. But at the same time, when you look at it, it has no substance in the greater cinematic universe.
Right, and that's the thing. You could really sense the Ant-Man and the Wasp vibes from those two writers who also wrote that god-awful film. But yeah, dude, so besides Spider-Man re-entering the MCU to kind of
Star Wars time is that what we're talking?
Shift gears, we're talking Star Wars, Tate.
The rest of the podcast, besides the last topic, is going to be delegated to Star Wars. This is really cool. Sir. I'm probably going to tune out a lot of it because I don't really care about the real world stuff. Because I mean, Ross sends me the links and I read it and I appreciate it. The Bob Iger stuff is a huge bummer, but It's gonna be me interjecting while Ross talks about substantial things. So
yeah, well,
here we go.
I mean, you and I have been playing Battlefront 2 together for a while now.
Oh, speaking of which, Ross, you remember when we were playing co-op and we were on separate teams?
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh my god! If you guys,
so the game broke for us recently, which is pretty hilarious.
So there was an update. When was it, Ross? Like Tuesday or something like that?
I forget. Yeah, it was this last week.
It added Felucia as a map. It added a co-op game mode. It added Republic Commandos as playable characters. Ross and I were playing the co-op mode, and I got placed on the enemy team somehow. So it was me versus 3 real players, and then the best part was on the ending screen where it shows you the top scorers. I was playing Bosk, and I was on the same victory screen as the hero characters, despite my team winning.
Which is not supposed to happen because this new offline. It's not offline. New co-op mode where you go against bots that they implemented this past week was you're supposed to all be on the same team, so that was definitely a bug.
Co-op, yeah. So it's funny, dude.
So anyway, I mean, to those of you guys who don't know, Star Wars Battlefront 2 obviously started off really rocky, but I mean, we've talked about it briefly here and there on the podcast sometimes a little bit. But I mean, last year they came out at Gamescom, I think it was, and they just, or it might have been E3, and they said, in 2018, next year we're going deep into the Clone Wars. Actually, no, they started it last year at like the end of 2018 when they started to add like Grievous and stuff.
Right. So Geonosis came out in February.
Yeah, and so they said we're going deep into the Clone Wars, but none of us really knew. We all just thought they were going to balance out the game. They were going to add more prequel content because that was the one era that was really just being left out of the game. And they were just going to come in. It was really great, right? They were going to do Anakin, Obi-Wan, Grievous, Count Dooku, Geonosis, and then call it there and cut support for the game. Great. And that was already really exciting. But then they continued, and I guess Battlefield 5 was just such a freaking crash and burn situation that everybody at DICE just seemed to go back to working on Battlefront 2, or at least a good, enough chunk of them, because they just started kicking out like the incredible mode of capital supremacy and going up into Venators and Imperial and CIS dreadnoughts and these incredible large-scale, high-paced, high-action modes. Droid commandos, ARC troopers have been added, droidicas, and now with this last update, they also just added in Felucia, clone commandos, and a co-op mode where we can go against bots and play together doing that in a really, really awesome,
it's so
fast-paced mode, and it's really fun, man. It's incredible.
It's so telling that that all of the content that released, a year, 2 years post-launch is far better than the content released at launch. Think about that for a second, Ross. If they had just delayed the game 2 years, right, we can imagine that it would launch in a state similar to this. A little different. But
could you imagine if the game launched like this?
Oh, it would be the highest selling game. It would be the highest, one of the highest selling games on modern platforms. I mean, if they didn't try the whole microtransaction scheme at the beginning with the pay to win, now infamous moment in gaming history. If they didn't do that and they instead went all in on the skins, and you could have had one hell of a live service Star Wars game. Dude. I mean, it could have been really special, and it is. The game is really fun, especially as a Star Wars fan. There's a lot of balancing. There's a lot of balancing issues, but I can overlook that because it's a more arcadey based shooter, right? There's certain things that I don't like about the game, but that's not an issue like the microtransaction stuff was, right?
It's a dream though.
Yeah, the issues in the game are purely based upon not even quality of life, but just almost nitpicks in a way. Like things that would be better if they were different, but otherwise you're playing boots on the ground Star Wars.
Listen, they're so connected to the community too that they're always listening, and they literally take surveys after every update, and so they do make the fixes and address the things that bother people.
Yes.
About those things, and they do their best anyway.
And they do their best without changing the core of the game, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and they break something, they fix it. They broke Heroes versus Villains, they fixed it 2 days later, and they reverted the changes. Capital Supremacy, they did a big change to recently, and it was really bad. And now it's actually serviceable again. And they changed the objectives around. So once you're done on the ground and you board the cruisers and go inside, and you have to destroy the cores now instead of just holding a button down, you can actually destroy the cores, and it's actually possible again, which it wasn't when they first updated it. But again, just Felucia is incredible. I mean, what I love about the maps in this with Battlefront 2 is they really do their best to link in both episodes 1, 2, and 3 and the Clone Wars. So you go on Felucia, and it looks just like Revenge of the Sith, but then you also have those little houses that you saw those little guys living in from Clone Wars.
Yeah, so the game is essentially, imagine if Clone Wars was live action.
Right.
That's what this game is essentially. The same goes with Geonosis. When you're at the when you're in the hive corridors, when you're in the caves, it looks like it's pulled straight out of the Clone Wars. But then you look outside, it's Attack of the Clones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is the attention to detail in this game is incredible. Same thing goes with Kashyyyk, right?
Yeah, and like I think the best example of it is Camino, because you're on Camino. And it looks just like Attack of the Clones. It's Camino exactly as you know it. But then outside, you've got the giant drilling droids that are on the surface of every building, like drilling inside to deploy super battle droids. You've got the barracks.
Yeah, same wavelength right there, Ross. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah. You've got the pods that Fives flew on in Order 66 arc in the Lost Missions. I mean, and it's so great because it's our best opportunity to see all those different little details that were added into the Clone Wars when they revisited those worlds from Revenge of the Sith, and you get to really see a combination of the two. It's the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith kind of colliding into what almost into a live action form that almost looks better than the movies. I mean, it's nuts.
Dude, the engine they're using here is incredible. It's a shame. It's a shame that what's it called doesn't look so good. Fallen Order, the landscapes, the set pieces are beautiful. But Ross sent me some gameplay. He sent me a trailer earlier this week, and dude, the player models are the NPC models are bad.
And the lighting is not good either.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking forward to Jedi Fallen Order. And we talked about this. I don't care about the graphics as long as the game is fun and the story is good. I don't care.
Let's talk about Fallen Order, Ross, because so I had a really bad night of insomnia. I was awake for like 30 hours, something like that, and I just picked up because I own the Darth Vader comics. I've already read through them all, and I just wanted to read through them again because I really like them. Up until Ross and I talked about this, but Darth Moment's kind of weird, but whatever. Anyway, I really like the Vader comics, but it's about Vader and Inquisitors hunting down Jedi. It's the bulk of the comic. What is Star Wars Rebels about? A group spearheaded by Jedis fleeing from Inquisitors. Mm-hmm. What is Fallen Order about? A guy fleeing from Inquisitors. Guys, there's a theme here. In 3 different pieces of media, a TV show, a video game, and a comic series or book series, I grouped those in
and also in the Ahsoka book.
And in the Ahsoka book, yeah.
You get tracked down by an Inquisitor, yep.
But that's more so, I tie that in more so with Rebels because it's the direct connection
it's just a lot of Inquisitors over the last few years, and it's gotten stale.
The thing is, Rogue One was so refreshing because it pretty much said, fuck you, Jedi. There's more to Star Wars than lightsabers and force powers. I appreciated that. Yeah. Sometimes I like to say Rogue One's my favorite Vietnam War movie. You know what I mean? Because it has that styling. It feels like Saving Private Ryan, a World War II movie. It feels like Full Metal Jacket, a Vietnam War movie. It feels, and it's shot like a war movie. Right? That's how it feels. That's how it also feels when we're playing co-op mode and all 4 players are Republic commandos leading a battalion.
Guys, let me tell you, you got to play Battlefront 2. Like, that's the point. If you're a Clone Wars fan, Battlefront 2 is already your dream game right now.
Yes.
Like, the dream Clone Wars game exists and it's available right now for $7. I mean, it's like, what an incredible experience, man.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, when we're on Felucia, I was on Geonosis co-op yesterday playing as the Republic Commandos, and I turned off the music of the game, put some earbuds in, and started blasting the Republic Commando theme from the original 2005 game.
Which is also a $5 game. That's an incredible Clone Wars experience.
Dude, what an experience, though. I mean, I just cannot believe. Like, I remember the developers just constantly saying Republic Commandos are probably not happening. That was just because I remember even when the game launched, there was an audio file from one of the droids saying Republic Commando, and we were like, they're not actually. They probably just meant ARC troopers. They're not ever going to actually add Republic Commando. And here we are, man. You know, it took a really long time, but the Republic Commandos are in the game, and they're so much fun to play.
There's so much. Okay, the co-op mode, guys. The co-op mode is so entertaining. I mean, playing, and this goes back to Star Wars is more than Jedi. You know what I mean? When we were playing this, it was Ross, myself, and 2 randoms, and we were all playing Clone Commandos, rushing that. You know, Felucia has that really shitty point in the co-op, Ross.
The center point.
Yeah, in the village. Right? That point's super hard to hold. But then the 4 of us were back to back in the center of it, just blasting clankers, dude. It was so great. I mean, there's more to Star Wars than lightsabers.
There's this one point on Felucia co-op. It's the final checkpoint if you capture the first 2 zones. Actually, I think it's the first 3 zones, and then you get to the 4th. But whatever the last zone is. Yeah, when you go over to the crashed Republic gunship, if you're playing as Anakin, a swarm, like an army of droids spawn behind the crashed Republic gunship. And if you jump right in the middle and use Anakin, what's the ability called?
I don't know. It's called like something might.
It's not Heroic Might, yeah.
Heroic Might.
And you use Anakin's Heroic Might right in the middle of the droids. It is the most satisfying thing I think I've ever done in the game.
Right,
when 20 battle droids go flying.
Ross, I think what happened is I had done it first. I jumped into the middle of them, and when you use your Heroic Might, you take virtually no damage. I shoot them up in the air. I hear Ross start laughing, and I see him as the Republic Commando shooting them like clay pigeons out of the air. It was hilarious.
Dude, and then I did it myself yesterday, and I was like, oh my god.
Isn't that awesome? Oh my gosh! And then you can use TX-130 fighter tanks. You can use ATRTs in that mode. You can use.
And dude, Tate, they're doing freaking Rise of Skywalker content.
I'll take it or leave it. You know what I mean? That's
I'm saying same, but I'm just saying like they're still going.
Right.
I mean, they're gonna have a new Rise of Skywalker map and probably some new skins for Rey and Kylo. I'm sure, and that's nuts that they're still doing this.
I would love them to do the co-op mode in the 2 other time periods. I think
and it would. I want to play Vader going against dude. Oh my god.
Yeah. I want to do Vader.
And just obviously you can do that already in the online.
Yeah, but Galactic Assault's the worst mode in the game.
Yeah, and it's like and people know how to take down heroes, and so you're not going to have that much fun.
No. So guys, I want to say, Capital Supremacy is the best mode in the game because it's arena mode. You have 5 points that are always available to you, whereas in Galactic Assault you have to push from point to point, and at the end of almost every map, the defenders have complete advantage, making it super unfun. Pushing objectives like that, it's cool, but it gets old really quickly. It's more fun in the co-op mode where it's doable, right?
Yeah, because the co-op mode that for Battlefront 2 they just added, it's like, first of all, right now it's all Clone Wars, which is really awesome.
Right.
But it's just you're going against bots, so there's no sweaty players on the enemy team who know exactly what they're doing, have been playing the game since launch. You know, I mean, who are just basically tryhards, and don't know how to play a game casually.
Ross and I mean, I'm speaking for myself here. I might be speaking for both of us. Dude, when Ross texts me, hey man, want to play Battlefront 2? I'm in bed. I'm in my underwear. I don't want to, put on my sweaty mode pants and plug my PlayStation into my PC monitor so I get maximum gamer mode. No, I just want to play on my bed and have fun.
Yeah.
And the co-op mode is just Galactic Assault, but better. You push from point to point. You have that dynamic gameplay, except you don't have attackers just Or not attackers, my bad. Defenders just sitting on a point the entire time. Awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
So, anyway, besides Battlefront 2, again, please, if you haven't, go buy it. It's so cheap, and it is the greatest Star Wars experience I think you can have in gaming right now, as far as AAA titles are concerned. We got these new Empire magazine covers for The Rise of Skywalker, and Tate, you and I have been very vocal about our excitement for The Rise of Skywalker. It's non-existent. However, pretty good covers, man.
You know what I have to say? Cool. Next topic. Star Trek fan guy. This guy's a Star Trek fan. Why is he making Star Wars
Tate can't
movies?
let this go.
I don't know. Guys, so there's an interview with... It's at the premiere of the first Star Trek reboot movie that J.J. Abrams made. He says, "Oh yeah, no, I loved Star Trek growing up. I never really was I was never really a Star Wars fan. I always loved Star Trek. I watched it with my family. You know, for me it was always Star Trek. And you know, because there's that whole rivalry on the internet, the undying rivalry, Star Trek versus Star Wars, even though that's kind of dead now. He's like, no, Star Trek, that's me. And then all of a sudden, 2015? Force Awakens comes out. Cool, man. That's epic, dude. Great work, Star Trek fan. It's annoying. And I think we lost Ross here. His mic just went dead. Ross, message me on Discord if you can hear me, man. Alright, well, Ross is just gone.
So I think my Wi-Fi just died.
There he is.
So I'm on my phone now because as I was also doing some prep for the podcast, getting all the slides together, my Wi-Fi just like totally died on my iMac out of nowhere.
Oh,
it looks like
man.
the same thing just happened on my MacBook. So I'm gonna be on my phone, and I apologize for the decrease in audio quality. Because now I'm on my iPhone instead of using my mic.
Hey man,
But
it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
yeah. What were we talking about?
J.J. Abrams being a Star Trek fan.
Yeah, so I mean, he grew up in Star Trek, not Star Wars, and so that's why the Star Trek movies were so incredible. And I mean, his Star Trek movies, at least I think they were. But these statements that just came out are definitely interesting, right? And I'm not sure if I have the Wi-Fi to even pull them up now. And by the way, I wasn't even using Wi-Fi. Like I am using a cable. But here they are. So basically, Abrams just recently, I don't know where he said these. I think, yeah, I totally forget where he posted these statements or where these were collected. However, basically, when commenting on The Last Jedi and what he would have done and if he would have changed anything and Rian Johnson and this and that, and if he felt the need that to correct things, he said, this is coming from J.J. Abrams, "I never found myself trying to repair anything. If I had done episode 8, I would have done things differently. Just as Ryan would have done things differently if he had done 8, but having worked on TV, I was accustomed to creating stories and characters that then were run by other people." And, you know, I obviously I get that.
Really quick,
Right.
guys. Ross isn't making Joker. He confirmed that last week. The secret figure is something entirely different. It's Ross. Can I give him a hint about the new figure? It's Battlefront
Please
2. It's a Battlefront 2 related thing.
So he says, "If you're willing to walk away from the thing that you created and you believe it's in trustworthy hands, you have to accept that some of the decisions being made are not."
My Discord just crashed. This is ridiculous. Oh my god. Oh my. Ross, are you there?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man.
My Discord crashed that time.
Oh, no.
That was my side, yep.
We're doing great. This is going really well. Let me just start over.
Yes, Please.
Okay, so these were new quotes that just... Sorry to everybody in the chat who's here with us. We're having some problems.
I don't know
so I'm
what's
going to start
going
over.
on.
Again, hopefully my internet doesn't die again. I'm on data, though, using my phone, and hopefully Tate's Discord doesn't crash. But J.J. Abrams did talk about The Last Jedi just recently, and he said, I never found myself trying to repair anything. If I had done 8, I would have done things differently, just as Ryan would have done things differently if he had done episode 7. But having worked on TV, I was accustomed to creating stories and characters that then were run by other people. If you're willing to walk away from the thing that you created and you believe it's in trustworthy hands, you have to accept that some of the decisions being made are not going to be the same that you would make. And if you come back into it, you have to honor what's been done. And that, again, is coming from J.J. Abrams as he's talking about The Last Jedi.
Time for a Tate translation.
Yeah.
Guys, so I'm an expert translator for corporate gobbledygook, all right? That is my job. That is my job title. He's saying, you guys hate The Last Jedi. Don't hate my movies. Don't hate my movies. My movies are not The Last Jedi. I know you guys dislike them. I would have handled them differently. Not to say they're bad, because Rian Johnson's my friend or my colleague or whatever, so I'm not going to shit on him. But that's not my movie. Don't judge my movies based upon that movie, is what he's saying here.
And he's basically saying, I mean, that to me, that's not him saying, that he's not disappointed that his plans were tossed out. That's him just accepting and saying that you have to accept that the decisions being made after you step away won't necessarily be the same ones you would have made. Because now you left the project and it's not in your hands. But that being said...
It's kind of tough shit, you know what I mean? He's pretty much saying tough shit.
Right, and so I get that, but it still bums me out. Because I really wish JJ would just have the whole trilogy. I really do. But it's a shame. So anyway, that happened.
I can confirm Ross isn't into horror. Except for
I'm
Last
just not
of
a
Us,
fan,
maybe.
man. Like, everybody asking me, did you see It Chapter 2? Listen, I'm just not buying a ticket to a movie to go watch some clown in a sewer eat some kids and dismember. Like, I'm good. I'm good, man. I just don't need that. I've got so much that I love already. That's not going to be one of them.
I like horror quite a lot. And
depends.
I'm playing through the Resident Evil franchise again. I'm playing through the Resident Evil 2 remake because it's my favorite Resident Evil game. Has been since launch in January of this year.
Yeah.
Go play that game. It's dropped in price to like $30, $40. It's so good.
I mean, if you're ready for some good horror and some gore, I imagine.
Oh yeah, Resident Evil games are very gory, but they're I know that a majority of the audience is under the age of mature games. I reckon most of you guys play them anyway. They're like Call of Duty and such. But this is one of the games where respect the 17+ rating. You know what I mean? I played the Resident Evil franchise growing up, as a little kid. And yes, I had my Kerbonk where I lost my memory, but I have a few memories of Resident Evil. Love the franchise.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Damn dude.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got some news. Some big
Feige
news. And Kevin Feige is officially confirmed to be working on a new Star Wars movie.
Cool.
And listen, man, things at Lucasfilm change all the time. I mean, Josh Trank was working on a movie. There was going to be an Obi-Wan and Boba Fett movie. Now those aren't happening. And we're getting an Obi-Wan series. Boba Fett's not happening at all.
And some other guy was supposed to direct episode 9.
Colin Trevorrow was going to do episode 9. So when they come out and say Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, the guy who made made the Marvel Cinematic Universe happen. I mean, the super genius behind it all. That he's working. It's that's exciting, but also in a year or two's time, you could have a statement be released and be like, "Yeah, he's not working on it anymore."
Guys,
because it's like how long ago was it announced that the Game of Thrones guys, Benioff and Weiss, were working on their own Star Wars trilogy? Ryan Johnson's working on his own Star Wars. Nothing has happened on either front, and so then
JJ made episode 7
added to the ring. It's exciting to think about Kevin Feige working on a Star Wars. Dude, but at the same time, while it is exciting, because he's the guy, right? I mean, he's the ultimate fanboy to be doing this. That's why the Marvel Cinematic Universe has worked so well. I'm not jumping up and down over this quite yet until I don't know. start to hear more details about it coming from him.
Ross and I have expressed that Star Wars needs a Feige, somebody to keep everything in check, keep everything consistent, right?
Yeah.
They didn't need to bring in actual Feige. You know what I mean? They didn't need to bring in the guy to create however many movies, or however many TV shows, or however many whatever. But Feige's a Filoni. He's a fan of the content he's working on. You know what? Let's talk about that for a second. There's a reason why Filoni made Clone Wars such a good show. He is a fan of Star Wars. There's a reason the MCU is so great. Feige is a fan of Marvel.
Yep.
Right? Now having that personality, having that fan personality, just like Filoni, I mean, whatever Kevin Feige works on Star Wars with, it's probably going to be good.
I mean, that is why all this works. That is why the Marvel Cinematic Universe happened. That is why all the Avengers films and everything that's happened since 2008 has worked so well in this unprecedented cinematic universe. Because Feige at the top, helping to lead all these people, all these thousands of people that he works with to pull this off, that it's worked in the front because he's the leading man at the top and he is the ultimate fan. And like you just said, Dave Filoni, dude, when my friend and I ran into him in Chicago, at night, it's like you just talk to him like he's any other, like he's just there's no disconnect. He doesn't even know any of us. We just start talking to him like he's one of our best friends because we all love Star Wars. It was incredible. I mean, like, and that's so exactly what, to your point, people like Dave Filoni, Kevin Feige are the reason, in large part, of why these things work in the first place. And because you haven't really had that in the same sense. Because listen, man, Bryan Johnson's, J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, Lawrence Kasdan, it's like, obviously they're qualified. Obviously they're fans of the original trilogy. But they're not as deep into it as somebody like Dave Filoni or somebody like Kevin Feige. And I respect them all. They're all incredibly... I mean, please. I don't have to tell any of you how incredible J.J. Abrams is or any of those people, Kathleen Kennedy, but, they're not necessarily super fans like Feige is or Dave Filoni, and that's fine, but I think you do need one of those people to be working on these projects. And kind of helming things up. And so Feige coming over and working on Star Wars, at least, if it's just one movie, I think that's great. But I'm not going to really get excited over this until I start to hear some more about it from him. Because right now it's just kind of a thing they tossed out at us. But it is exciting.
It is very exciting. I mean, this could be great for Star Wars. Whether he's working on even if he's working on a freaking comic book, it will be consistent. And it'll have a good, strong story. Right. But anyway, you want to move on to the Bob Iger stuff?
Yeah. So I did a whole video about this on my channel.
And we actually did it on this channel, too.
We did. It was our first ever separate video, which was exciting.
Yes.
On the channel, on MGF Live here, because this matters to us. George Lucas and his thoughts about the future of Star Wars after he sold it, it matters. Because this is George Lucas, the guy who started it all in the 1970s, who has completely changed the world and inspired 3 generations of people. I mean, millions of people's lives, including ours around the world, changed forever because of his creativity and all the innovation he achieved with the thousands of people he worked with to pull off Star Wars and this entire universe. And finally, 2011 rolls around. They're in Orlando having breakfast, and Iger plants the thought in George's head to sell Lucasfilm. 7 months later, Lucas calls him up. They negotiate. Lucas didn't want to relinquish creative control. Ultimately, he did. Sold the company. $4 billion later, they took George's outlines. And this is crazy, guys, because if you didn't hear, this is coming from Bob Iger himself in his newly released book, The Ride of a Lifetime, as he's kind of covering the 15 years of being the CEO of Disney. And so these quotes are coming from him. And it's very surprising that he would talk about any of this because it came before the rise of Skywalker. Like, why would he put any of these quotes or allow any of these statements to be released in his new book before arguably the biggest Star Wars movie since The Force Awakens, right? I mean, it is the biggest Star Wars movie since The Force Awakens, the biggest release. And so basically, I mean, I don't have the quotes handy on me. I did for my video. But basically, and again, you can find the article. I can try to pull them up as I'm talking here. But Bob Iger, Alan Horn, and Alan Braverman, both very important people. I mean, all three of them. I mean, that's the CEO of Disney. You're talking the chairman of I mean, Alan Horn. These guys are pretty much at the top of
pretty
Disney.
Much, they are the top of Disney.
Yeah, and
they have more power than Walt ever did.
So basically, these quotes came out, and Bob Iger said that George, eventually, when he realized that despite him handing over his outlines for where he thinks the sequel trilogy should go, he walks into a room one day and he's talking with Kathleen and JJ, and he actually apparently got upset and started to feel betrayed as it dawned on him that they were discarding his outlines because JJ Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, Michael Arndt, who was working on The Force Awakens, but eventually had to be like things weren't working out with him, and he actually didn't work on the finished product for The Force Awakens. And Bob Iger all met without George and agreed that the sequel trilogy needed to go in a new direction because, of course, George Lucas, back in 2012, 2013, 2014, leading up to the production of The Force Awakens, he wanted the sequel trilogy to, of course, follow in the footsteps laid down by the prequels. And so expanding on the universe, expanding on the characters, expanding on the factions, expanding on the Force, expanding on the planets. The prequels, episode 1, 2, 3, those films were the first Star Wars films made fully digital. And that is why we had George and ILM pioneering everything that's possible with visual effects and what can be done. The planets you can visit, the aliens you can see. Nothing was impossible anymore. And episode 1, 2, and 3 proved that as we went to Coruscant for the first time, to Geonosis, to Felucia, to Megiddo. I mean, these incredible planets, these incredible ideas. Mustafar, which was mostly miniatures actually. Theed, which was also mostly miniatures actually on Naboo. These incredible worlds and the incredible story of episode 1, 2, and 3 expanded the Star Wars universe in so many different ways. And now that people like you and I, Tait, are grown up and we can voice our opinions, there is more love for episode 1, 2, and 3 than there ever has been before.
Oh, yeah.
Because now because now Disney has made it clear just what nostalgia really can look like when it's really misused, when it rears its ugly head to make money at the box office. And The Force Awakens, of course, had to be kind of a, sort of a consultation package, right? It was the world going into Disney HQ and Disney HQ pitching Star Wars back to the world. That's what The Force Awakens was. It was a consultation package. You come to us, come to Disney Star Wars, here's what you're going to get. Everything's going to be great. Look, we've got the girl in the desert, stranded in the desert, who's a Force user, going to change the galaxy, exactly the same age as Luke Skywalker was in A New Hope. We're back in the deserts. We're back in the forests. We're back in the snow. We've got another Death Star. We've got the Darth Vader-like figure. We've got the original cast. We are clinging to practicality and realism and everything looking like Earth in our sci-fi fictional universe in a galaxy far, far away about space wizards and a cosmic force that unites it. It's just, it's irrational to cling to realism. And it's irrational at this point with everything that's possible now after movies like Avatar and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all of the achievements with CGI to then try to go back and rely on it instead of striking that balance that was found with Rogue One, where you combine CGI and practicality
Ross,
to achieve that realism.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
To
ASMR right
achieve-
now.
Alright,
Okay.
I'm getting real close to the mic. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Alright. Why the flying fuck are we in a galaxy far, far away if we're gonna use the same goddamn trees I see every goddamn day? We're gonna use the same goddamn sand that's a freaking 2-minute walk from my house. If I see the same goddamn rocks in my front yard. I'm playing Battlefront 2 2017. I see fucking gas pods that hurt my pee-pee whenever I step on them. I see little houses with little pies. I see big alien trees that I can't even pronounce the names of. Why would I ever choose going to the fucking woods when I could go into space pee-pee hurt land and enjoy myself in clone armor?
He's talking about pollution, by the way.
Why would I watch a movie that looks like a documentary when I can watch episode 3 and watch 2 legends in their universes? It's like watching Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris fight in Lava Land.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, tell me why Disney? Why isn't Thanos just purple Josh Brolin, Disney?
Right, like, dude, could you imagine if the Marvel Cinematic Universe was pinned down by this worshipping of practicality and realism? We couldn't have Thanos, we couldn't have Titan, we couldn't have the Iron Man suits, we couldn't have the Hulk, we couldn't have, Sokovia being lifted into the sky.
Hey,
There's so much we couldn't do in the MCU.
you remember
if
Lou
they did
Ferrigno
the
Hulk?
same thing.
Remember Lou Ferrigno Hulk? Remember that? You remember that green man?
I mean,
That
like,
was
could you
legendary.
imagine-
But that was legendary. Why aren't we sticking to that?
What if Titan was just a forest? What if Wakanda was just a city out in the snow or in the desert?
Ross,
I mean, like,
Ross,
oh my God.
they used practical effects for Marvel in the 70s, so why are they using CGI now?
I think the world is finally about ready to let go of this worship of practicality.
I want to
Because it is such a clamp on innovation that it's getting disgusting. It really is.
Disney.
Because when we have things in the works right now, I mean, it's like what
Disney.
it pisses me off, man. It really does.
Disney, give us purple Josh Brolin and Star Wars the way it is, or give us actual CGI in our new Star Wars movies. I mean, Pisano looks kind of cool because of that festival thing. I'm gonna move away from the mic.
No.
I'm gonna stop with this. Pisano looks kind of cool, but like in the same way that Agrabah is cool.
I'm
but
sorry,
like at the same
man.
time,
it's just
it's
they're
just
in
Jeddah.
this echo chamber.
But
They're
we're-
in like JJ and the crew are in this echo chamber. I'll never forget. After we're at Celebration, Oscar Isaac. After he gets off stage in front of us, he goes off and I think the next day gives a statement about Episode 9. He's talking about it, or who knows if it was pre-taped or whatever. Whenever he had given it, and it was like he was telling a story about. He's talking to JJ. Why are we out in the desert? Why are we out in the desert if you're just going to use a green screen, JJ? And JJ gave him an answer like, it's about how the lighting of the desert reflects off of everything that you can't get with CGI. I'm like, get out of here.
Shut the hell up, you old
And then
man.
the
Get out of here,
Naomi
boomer.
Ackie, who's playing I already forgot. Jana. And she's
that
like,
Bow
there's
Lady?
something so real about it.
Bow
It's
Lady.
so gritty
Ooh.
and grounded. And it's like, enough with this.
Guys, there should be a balance between CG and practical effects. There needs to be. I don't want to see movies.
Rogue One was the perfect example.
Right. I don't want to see movies like the Hobbit trilogy, where Ian McKellen, Sir Ian McKellen, God bless his soul, was just crying in a green screen room. You know what I mean? I don't want to see that. I mean, in a certain point of view, from a certain point of view, the prequels overuse CGI, and especially with those touch-ups in like 2008 or 2006, whenever those touch-ups came out for the original trilogy, those overuse CGI. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Let's go back to Rogue One. Let's go back, and even Force Awakens. I mean, Force Awakens locales weren't that cool, but they could have, gone to better planets moving forward. Let's just go to Felucia. Let's go to
keep doing this. They're going back
places.
to what? They're going back to Takodana. It looks like wherever the forest planet is. You know, I mean, you got Kylo Ren back in another Snoke. I mean, he's running through a forest in the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, they're out in the desert of Jordan, and they CG the big space market into it, so suddenly it looks like it. No. Enough.
I want to say this. I want to say this. If you really want to show Earth-like locales in a Star Wars movie, put them all on the same planet. You know what I mean? Have a planet that's partially desert and partially snow, and there's a thematic reason for them to be on one planet. But we need to see variation.
But they're going back to Endor, and that's why. Listen, man.
Why do they make it? Okay, no. You know what George Lucas would have done? If he goes back to Endor, he would have made the trees 10,000 feet tall. You know what I mean? He would have used CGI.
Endor, right.
Right. He would have taken us to a different part of Endor where the trees are 10,000 feet tall. They touch the fucking moon, or they touch the actual planet Endor. Right. That's how tall the goddamn trees are. There are Ewok villages that sprawl the entire skyline. You know, things like that. You know, things that are genuinely entertaining and cool to view. Dude, I'm not going to go to a Star Wars movie to see the woods when I could go to Yosemite National Park, one of the most gorgeous places in the world, my favorite goddamn place in the world, 4 hours away from my house. Or I watch a 2-hour movie to watch trees,
dude, in the Vanity Fair article, I remember the writer saying the deserts of Jordan look plausibly alien. It's like, stop. Enough.
Plausibly alien. That's not alien. That's an oxymoron.
But what the reason that this pertains to the whole George Lucas conversation is because, again, The Force Awakens, because of how split the fan base was with episodes 1 through 3, they had to show the world what Star Wars is again, right? They had to create a consultation package that felt just like the original trilogy, why the world fell in love with Star Wars in the first place, to loop the world back in.
Right.
And now I get that.
And you know what? Also, I want to add, Ross, really quick, that you show the people what Star Wars is and what Star Wars can be under Disney. Force Awakens is a good movie. We've already expressed that. Then you give us Rogue One. Show us that Star Wars, it's a little bit more than we realize, right? It's something that's both familiar to us, but completely new, because the planets in Rogue One are great. Great balance, perfect balance. We just said that. They should have pushed that forward with Last Jedi, with Solo.
Right.
Should have evolved what they showed us with
Solo was so boring to look at.
Yellow planet, gray planet.
I was bored to death watching that movie, like just from a visual standpoint. But listen, man, I get it. Right, you have to do that. I don't know that George's outlines featuring a character named Kira and Luke being in exile, similar to Last Jedi, and then going all in on the Wills, these massive, omnipotent figures that control the universe and the Force. I don't know the world would have been ready for that. That would have had the same reception as episodes 1 through 3. People wouldn't have liked it, and then in 20 years they would. And so, listen, man, I get it. Right? I don't think they necessarily made the wrong call as far as getting the world back on board. I don't think, I feel like The Force Awakens did everything that it needed to do. I still despise that they limited themselves creatively to do it, from the story and the plot being so similar and echoing A New Hope so directly, and the worlds being so uninspired. But I get it, right? We needed to do that, but to keep maintaining that theme for The Last Jedi, and now again with The Rise of Skywalker. And so anyway, what bothers me about the whole Bob Iger, George Lucas thing is he says, I've been so careful since our first conversation not to mislead him in any way, George. And I didn't think I had now, but I could have handled it better. I should have prepared him for the meeting with JJ and Michael and told him about our conversations, that we felt it better to go in a direction. I could have talked through this with him and possibly avoided angering him by not surprising him. Now, in the first meeting with him about the future of Star Wars, George felt betrayed. And while this whole process would have never been easy for him, we'd gotten off to an unnecessarily rocky start. Listen, man, I get it. It wouldn't have been an easy process for him no matter what. It was very hard. You didn't hear about it when it was happening, but it was really hard for George to do this and to sell Lucasfilm. It was not easy on him. I mean, that interview in, I think, what was it, 2015, 16 with Charlie Rose, when he's calling Disney the white slavers, he still hadn't fully gotten over it. It had been like 3 years, 4 years, you know? And because this was over 30 years of his life, changing the world with Star Wars, building this multi-billion-dollar company that is just the company is George. And so, yes, it was hard for him no matter what. But at the same time, the reason I made a video on my channel, the reason that this is news to me, is a lot of people were going around saying, oh, he already talked about how he didn't really like the sequel trilogy art. No. What we didn't get, what is newsworthy here, what makes this new, is the CEO of Disney himself saying that George Lucas felt betrayed, upset, disappointed, wanting to avoid, he should have done better to avoid angering George. None of that was said before. That is some very extreme, that is some hard language that was not used before previously. Meaning this apparently was a bit more heated and they were a little bit more upset. George was more upset than what we were previously led to believe. And that bothers me because George Lucas is the number one person who inspires me the most besides my own family. And to hear that, and again, I don't think Disney made the wrong call making The Force Awakens the way they did. However, to not even communicate with George about it beforehand, and for Bob Iger to be negligent enough to allow George to walk in and not even say, hey, we changed some things up. We're probably not going to use your... Just come on, man. George Lucas, this legend, this legendary person, right up there with Steven Spielberg, to not even communicate with him, to not even give him a call. I mean, like, come on, he didn't care.
Yeah.
He didn't think it was going to bother George, or he didn't. I mean, like, they know each other. Like, it's not like Bob and George have known each other for decades, all the way back to the 70s and 80s before any of this happened. And so it's like, Tate, that's like you and I going on to know each other for the next 20, 30 years. And then, one of us, creates a multi-billion-dollar franchise, and then one of us buys it from the other. And I don't give you a call to say, we're not going to do things the way you want. Like, could you imagine?
Yeah, that's the big sad right there.
And that's what bothers me. It's not how they handled The Force Awakens. It's not how they started off Disney-era Star Wars. Again, I think The Force Awakens is a fun film. It's a great time. It is a great film, despite it being so limited and inhibited creatively, but to not communicate with George.
I want to say something real
that's
quick.
what bothered me the most about it. Because
we made the video on Wednesday last week, not to trash The Last Jedi, not to trash
or
Solo,
Disney, in general,
not to trash anything. We did it as fans. This is our favorite franchise. This is our favorite franchise of all time. It's George's franchise. He's the Messiah. He is the will. There are no wills. There's one wills. And it's him. He is Star Wars. What he says goes, and always makes sense. The thing is, when George Lucas does Star Wars, the guy might not be able to write a script. He might not be able to write dialogue, but he writes very good stories, connected stories that make sense. There is a map in his brain that he puts on screen. In every single Star Wars movies made by Lucasfilm, headed by George Lucas, the first 6 movies, they all make sense. The dialogue might leave some to be desired, but the movies themselves make sense. And now, we're in a spot where the tie-up is going to have to, really carry the entire franchise, and that's a shame.
Right. And this is why we're not excited for it, right, for The Rise of Skywalker, because this is not how George wanted it. George developed the Star Wars universe, the Star Wars saga, and again, changed the world across 3 different generations of the world and millions of people. And it's like, to think that all of that is not ending on his terms or how he wanted, you can't help now, after these statements, but go into The Rise of Skywalker feeling a little upset.
Yeah.
And this quote here kind of encapsulates the whole thing, because then Bob Iger also said, just prior to the global release, Kathy screened The Force Awakens for George, and I'll never forget this because when The Force Awakens came out, when The Last Jedi came out, they would always release like a quick little article, right? A quick little statement. George saw the movie. He really enjoyed it. He thought it was good. You know, there was always like a quick little thing that you would see that this movie got George's stamp of approval. He saw it and it was all BS.
Mm-hmm.
BS, right? And back before when they were starting to develop The Force Awakens, all BS when Kathy said George had downloaded his ideas into JJ. Great, to not use a single damn one of them.
Right, you can download something on your computer and never open it. You know what I mean?
And so it just, Tate, there's something that's so deceptive about all this. That's why it feels like we can't trust them anymore.
Oh no!
After that.
I mean, I didn't trust him anyway, dude. I didn't trust him with the Star Wars IP.
Neither did I. But things like Rogue One, the Clone Wars, Mandalorian were keeping me on board and trusting them a little bit. But it's like, damn, dude. You know.
You know what? Honestly, if I want Star Wars, I'm reading the books. I'm reading the Legends books, and I am playing Battlefront 2, and I'm watching Mandalorian. That is it. I don't care about the movies, and I haven't cared about the movies, in a long time. And it's such a shame that I have to drop my Star Wars fanaticism. But I mean, dude, they've just proven time and time again that they can't handle it, and this further proves that, I think.
I mean, they certainly weren't prepared to handle it because of how quickly it all happened.
Right.
Bob Iger also says that in his book because when they were considering like how they were, what the price was going to be for Lucasfilm, how much they were going to pay, a lot of it actually pertained to how quickly could they get new movies out the door.
Mm-hmm.
How could they make good movies and how could they make them quickly?
No, how could they make money off of movies, dude? It's never about good movies.
And when everything with Michael Arndt, the secondary writer to JJ, fell through and JJ taking the whole thing on himself for the most part, that actually set The Force Awakens back because The Force Awakens was originally due for May 2015, not December, and that's why they took over. It wasn't a strategic choice on Disney's part. They were going for the May summer releases. But then they had to move to December because of the falling out with the writer, Michael Arndt. However, George did say, this again, according to Bob Iger, there's nothing new. He said, in each of the films in the original trilogy, it was important to George to present new worlds, new stories, new characters, and new technologies. In this one, he said, there weren't enough visual or technical forward. So exactly what we've been saying. And he wasn't wrong, Bob Iger says, but he also wasn't appreciating the pressure we were under to give ardent fans a film that felt quintessentially Star Wars.
Bob Iger, you're such a dickhead.
We had intentionally created a world that was visually and tonally connected to the earlier films to not stray too far from what people loved and expected. And George was criticizing us for the very thing we were trying to do. Looking back with the perspective of several years and a few more Star Wars films, I believe JJ achieved the near impossible, creating a perfect bridge between what had been and what was to come.
Yeah, that's what Force Awakens needed to be, not the entire Disney Star Wars franchise. You know what I mean? Force Awakens needed to be that thoroughfare. You know what I mean? That needed to be
then you slowly start to expand and you start to incorporate the exciting and innovating techniques and concepts from the episodes 1, 2, and 3. You do the extravagant worlds. You do the more detailed and large-scale narratives that don't just mirror the original trilogy or don't use the original trilogy as a crux. You know, you again, for The Force Awakens, I appreciated what they did. That was necessary, right? And they made a lot of promises with The Force Awakens for where the sequel trilogy was going to go and where things were going to be taken. And then Ryan came in, totally screwed all of that, and now JJ had to come in and pick up the pieces, throw Palpatine in there, and just try to make do. And it's like...
Yeah, it's such a shame.
You know, I mean, good God, man. Yeah, good God.
It's so
how did this happen, you know?
It's so disorganized, unfortunately, and dude, let's move on because we could talk about this all day.
Yeah, man. I mean, and again, I don't want to continue. I don't want to, make it seem like I'm one of these radical, crazy ass YouTubers who have not stopped bashing Disney since all this started. No, man, I appreciate a lot of what they've achieved in Disney era Star Wars, but there's also a lot that's been really, really screwed up, and that's all it is, man. And as passionate Star Wars fans, as people who really, really, truly believe that George Lucas is he is Star Wars. This is his story, his universe, his ideas, his everything. What he says goes, whether we like it or not. And it's just that's what bothers me. That Disney not only didn't follow his ideas, but just couldn't even respect him enough to communicate.
See,
I mean, especially Bob Iger, somebody who they knew each other already for decades. I mean, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know, George should have been he should have been one of the first people looped in. Not ambushed by it walking into a room after.
Dude, you can edit the story, but they should have kept this, this structure. They should have kept the spine.
Just give George a call.
That's
all, man. Give him a call. Listen, man, we like your outlines a lot. This is not what the world needs right now, though. We're going to do this. Done! Don't walk him into a room and let him figure it out on his own. That's what bothers me, man. And that's...
Let's see what happens in December.
Because, listen, man, Tait, I'm the guy, Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, who got my sister and my dad, put them in the car, and we drove 4 hours, 3 years in a row. Because that's how excited I was for Disney-era Star Wars. That's how much I was enjoying it with The Force Awakens and Rogue One. And then the third trip in 2017, when we went to that theater 4 hours away, and we saw The Last Jedi, and then I went back and sat on the movie for a few days. This was really bad. After I had a couple months to sit on it, I was like, I'm not driving 4 hours to a Star Wars film ever again at this point.
No.
Because that was just such a smack in the face to everything that they seem to be building with The Force Awakens and Rogue One.
Yeah.
But again, still excited for Clone Wars Season 7, Mandalorian, Battlefront 2 is in a really great place. Doing a lot of great stuff. Obi-Wan coming up. I really hope that they course correct now.
Yes. Speaking of Mandalorian, Ross, you gave me a Mandalorian picture. What was released?
Yeah, so obviously Mandalorian's coming out really soon, and we're starting to get some pictures of it, and it looks great. This is a picture that I don't know why, but this picture I just absolutely fell in love with.
It's cool. I like it.
I mean, it is the Mandalorian inside his ship, and it just looks incredible. I mean, he's just, I don't know, the lighting, everything about that still just really speaks to me for some reason. It's just perfect looking. I don't know. This picture just really took me by surprise because it just looks so clean, so crisp, and just so new. The Mandalorian, everything we've seen so far from it in a lot of ways, something we haven't seen from Disney or Star Wars, which is why I'm really excited.
Yes.
So this looks really cool.
Return to form, it really is. I mean, I really think it's going to be.
I mean, and that's the thing about the Mandalorian, right? You had Jon Favreau, and all through production talking about how they were using new technologies with how they were filming it.
Dude, okay, I want to say something really quick. Dude, they're all video game CGI. The ships in the in the show, they're all Unreal Engine. Do you know what Unreal Engine works on? Video games, dude.
Yes, sir.
Isn't that insane? They use Unreal Engine in a TV show, in a Disney-produced TV show. That's insane. Yep. That's new technology, dude. That's
right,
efficiency.
and that's what George was talking about.
All right, nope, Ross. I'm looking at chat. We're good. We've said what we need to say.
What?
We've said what we need to say about new technology and the whole Iger situation. Let's not risk going back there.
No, dude, but I'm just saying because it really seems like they're doing that with The Mandalorian. And George Lucas seems like of all the things that have been going on, George Lucas seems to be approving of what they're doing with The Mandalorian the most so far.
Yeah.
I mean, and especially because Dave Filoni worked so closely with John and even directed one of the episodes. I mean, The Mandalorian seems to really be like it's going to be falling a lot more in line with the ideas that George put forward.
Absolutely.
As far as taking Star Wars in new directions. But speaking of taking Star Wars in new directions, my wallet and everybody's wallet will be taking new directions and new hits.
I don't buy Legos. Woohoo!
But Triple Force Friday is coming up this week. So gear up Thursday night at midnight and Friday morning. Make sure you hit up those Walmarts at midnight. Hit up those Targets in the morning and the GameStops because new merchandise is coming. It's the biggest Force Friday ever that covers not just one movie, but Rise of Skywalker, Mandalorian, and Jedi Fallen merchandise all dropping.
They should have dropped Fallen Order on Force Friday. That would have been so smart. I don't know why they didn't.
Wait, what?
They should have dropped Fallen Order on Force Friday.
They are.
Are you serious?
Oh, you mean the game? I thought you were talking about the merchandise. I was like, oh,
no. They should have dropped the game on Force Friday. It comes out in November, right? Yeah, November 15th. I just Googled it. They should just release the game on Force Friday because the game's done.
Well, I mean, the idea is to have all the toys in store and make sure they're all in the ready to go. So
yeah.
Come out, merchandise is readily available, not still, chugging its way onto store shelves. But Tait, this is gonna be my fourth Force Friday. I did The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and The Last Jedi.
Well, that's all of them, right? That's all the Force Fridays.
Oh no, I mean there were ones for episodes 1, 2, and 3. But,
oh really? Back in the day?
Even a small one when the Clone Wars first began.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so I've done Force Friday every year. For us, obviously, it's not gonna be a Toys R Us this year.
Rest in peace, my friend.
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I mean, there's not going to be much sleep to be had throughout all this because this Thursday I'm going to be going to my Walmarts at midnight, and the Walmarts around my area are a little sketchy, so I hope I don't die. And then when that happens, I'm going to get a little bit of sleep, get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, head over to my Targets with my buddy Corey, because I'm about to have a new roomie who's moving in.
Oh, cool.
Which is exciting. Corey, First Order Transmissions, formerly at MakingStarWars.net. He will be here on Wednesday, and we're going to be experiencing Force Friday here locally, which should be pretty fun, man. And so, obviously, all the YouTubers have already got all the reviews out, new Star Wars sets. I never really plan on reviewing the new Rise of Skywalker sets to begin with. They never really did well on the channel after Force Awakens doing Friday stuff. So the idea is instead, I'll just review the Mandalorian set
and the Lego Yoda.
And maybe the set with Rey. I'll buy the Lego Yoda. Maybe I'll do a meme video out of it.
And I'm gonna be in that video. I have to be. If I'm not around, I will write it, dude.
And we'll get Skibo in it too.
Dude, okay, no, Ross, I will buy a Lego Yoda. We need to do a live stream on like either this channel or the main channel where we just the three of us all build Lego Yodas.
100%.
I'm gonna customize my Lego Yoda though. I'm gonna give him some specialties.
I don't. They get demonetized. Oh no.
Ross, I'm gonna send you something in Discord, alright? I'm gonna turn my Lego Yoda into this one.
Oh god. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So then
are we on the last topic? Or no, not quite.
Well, yeah, so it's just Walmart's at midnight that we're going to hit up, Corey and I, and then Target's early in the morning, and then GameStop's shortly after that. And the idea for me is I'm going to review that Mandalorian set, review the small set with Rey, and the First Order Jump Troopers, probably, maybe, I don't know. Those are the only two sets I'm interested in reviewing. The Millennium Falcon's pretty much the same thing that I already reviewed in for the Force Awakens. They just changed the paneling and threw some weaker minifigures in there. Hooray! I'm not dropping another $160 on just for that. And then the new Kylo Ren shuttle, though, that looks really cool, and I'll definitely have to try to pick that up at some point. But I'm not really jumping to review that. And then I am a big avid collector of the Black Series figures. Been debuted, and I've always been hunting down Black Series figures, all the new ones, whether it be in store or just on Amazon. And just, I've been collecting Black Series, the 6-inch Star Wars figures, since 2014. And those are always the really tough thing to get at Force Friday. Those are the things that sell out the fastest because they are the best consumer level figures you can buy for Star Wars. And they're going to be coming out with Rey, Kylo Ren, their Rise of Skywalker variants.
They're going to be coming out with the Lego Yoda.
Yeah.
Classic.
They actually did make a new Yoda this year.
Is it like
they're gonna have Cal? They're gonna have the First Order. Separate the order. They are gonna have new First Order Stormtrooper, but they're gonna have the new Inquisitor from Jedi Fallen Order, and they're gonna have
Lego Yoda from Fallen Order,
Commander Fox from the Clone Wars at GameStop,
Oh, and Lego Yoda from Lego Star Wars 3, the Clone Wars video game.
Correct.
I'm sorry, Ross.
I forget the other two.
Lego Yoda and Lego Yoda, right? From the Mandalorian.
Yes, Lego Yoda. They're gonna have the Mandalorian, and then Lego Yoda, and then after Lego Yoda, they're gonna have Cara Dune, also from the Mandalorian.
Oh, and Lego
Janna from The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not gonna be trying to get all these figures at once, but there's gonna be a new Return of the Jedi Luke as well. And the reason these figures are so cool, guys, and like so exciting to collect, especially now, is in the last couple of years they introduced digital face scan printing for these $20 consumer level retail figures, and it didn't increase the price at all. So instead of just dinky looking painted faces and painted eyes, really cheapy looking faces, it's literally like they take a scan of the actor's face now and spray it onto the sculpt, and it's incredible looking.
That's crazy.
I mean, I think I've shown you at least a couple of times.
Yeah,
but I can show you. I mean, they're so incredible now, these figures.
Yeah, no, they're nuts.
I mean, for $20, it is nuts that you can buy a figure that is nearly 1-to-1 with the actor on that kind of a scale. It's crazy, especially when they started to do Clone Wars figures, like having Anakin with the digital face scan and the new Rey. And I mean, they're adapting comic characters like Dr. Aphra using the technology on that figure. And it's just really cool that they actually got that to a retail, made that possible for figures. And the Mace Windu, the Tamira Morrison for Captain Rex. Captain Rex is probably my favorite Black Series figure ever, and so they're always they're always really fun when new ones come out for Force Friday.
And then, dude, the face scan that they did for Lego Yoda, dude, it looks like the real thing.
Yeah, I can show you, dude. I just saw it in GameStop the other day. It looks incredible.
Yeah. Ross, did you see what I sent in your Discord, dude? That's the face scan. That's the new face scanned figure. Yeah, Lego Yoda right there.
What's with the head? Why does it look so dark? The hell?
Oh gosh, I made this stupid Lego Yoda picture.
You guys can't see the meme.
No, I don't think. I think we'd probably get demonetized if I put it up.
I don't know.
But anyway, Ross, are you satisfied with the Star Wars talk? Because we have one final announcement.
Yes.
It's gonna be a quick announcement because I don't want to talk about it too much, and also we got to wrap up soon. But Last of Us Part 2 story trailer just came out. I have not watched it. I don't want to watch it. I'm waiting for the game to come out. I haven't watched any trailers for Last of Us Part 2. I just saw Ellie playing guitar, and I saw the bow execution with the guy praying. That was nuts.
Oh, you did see that?
Well, after you told me about it, I looked it up.
Oh, nice. Yeah, dude. I mean, just crazy.
Yeah, Last of Us Part 1 is one of my favorite games of all time.
And I think it's pretty safe to say that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be possibly the greatest game of all time.
Naughty Dog does not disappoint. I don't think they've ever disappointed. I can't name a Naughty Dog game that's bad.
I will never forget when The Last of Us came out in 2013. I mean, I didn't know it was in development. I had no idea. I didn't know anything about it. I just started playing a walkthrough while I was working with figures all those years ago. And I was just blown away by the story of the game and the gameplay that I was seeing and how tense everything was in the story and the world they developed. And just incredible, Joel and Ellie. Oh, my God. So
with Last of Us 1, right? Well, we knew about it. If you were a Naughty Dog fan at the time, which I don't remember this, because of the cripple out. But if you're a Naughty Dog fan at the time, I mean, they announced that it was in development, but everybody thought it would just be a zombie game. Mm-hmm. They thought it was going to be Uncharted with zombies. And then all of a sudden it comes out.
I don't think the world was prepared for how good Last of Us was.
Dude, no, Last of Us is probably the best game of all time. I mean, I would wager. Is it my favorite game of all time? No, but can you deny the quality of the game?
And to those of you guys who don't know, I mean, The Last of Us, it's an incredible game.
It's only $10, and it's going to be free next month with PlayStation Plus. So if you have a PlayStation,
you've got to play it. I mean, you can look up a quick synopsis to get an idea. But it is basically a zombie apocalypse.
Ross hasn't played it. Did I say that?
I watched the walkthrough like 3 times. I'm very familiar with the story.
I played the game on each difficulty, Ross. I played it on the hardest difficulty where you don't have a
That's
HUD.
because you're a fucking sweaty tryhard!
Play the game, Ross, you loser.
I will play the game.
It's going to be fun.
And
next
I'll
time.
give myself a quick heart attack. Or many heart attacks, because that game is heart attack producing.
Oh, yeah, no, the game is frightening. Dude, when you're playing, I don't remember what the hardest mode's called because it's been a while since I played. But when you're playing that, dude, you don't have a HUD, you don't have an ammo counter. It's just you know, one clicker touches you, you're dead. You have no ammo. It's harder than shit. Dude, the game is tough.
And that's on regular difficulty too.
On regular difficulty, it's fine, but on the max difficulty, it's impossible.
Well, yeah, on max. I mean, regular, it's still challenging.
Yes.
Especially with the stealth sequences. I'm not looking forward to it.
Oh, dude, those are so fun. I love... So, Metal Gear Solid, second favorite franchise of all time behind Zelda. And I think the stealth in The Last of Us 1 is pretty comparable to that. So I enjoy it.
No, seriously, guys, the story of The Last is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
You really got to check it out. Play the game for yourself.
Gorgeous
I
game.
mean, it is... It's comparable to Red Dead Redemption 2, where it's just an experience. You have to play it for yourself.
I'm sorry, Ross, but...
When I say comparable, I mean on the same level in the sense that I can describe it the same way. It means I can't describe it, so I'm telling them to play it because there's too much to cover.
Ross needs to play the game to understand. Dude, let me tell you.
So that's going to do it for episode 27.
No, I'm the one who controls the end button.
Tait has played
button.
The Last of Us for the umpteenth time.
Okay, guys. In Red Dead 2, you experience the world. You know, you run around the world. It's like a life simulator. In Last of Us, you put yourself into the shoes of a destroyed old man, right? Somebody who is old, who is frail, who is trying to do his best to put his life into saving a young girl. All he wants to do is save this young girl, right? When you put yourself into those shoes at any age, you start feeling emotions. You start feeling things that you didn't know you could. You know what I mean? I don't have a kid. I hope to not have a kid for a long time, but when you're playing Last of Us, when you're really, in the moment playing it, you feel like Joel. You really do. Mm-hmm. And then when you get halfway through the game, and I'm spoiling it because the game is 6 years old, but when you get halfway through the game and Joel is injured, he fell on that piece of rebar, and you're playing as Ellie fighting for your life to save Joel, it's incredible. You take all of those emotions you felt at the beginning of the game trying to save this young girl and flip it. Now you're in a more comfortable spot. Everyone's been a kid. Everyone's been a kid. But not everybody's been a kid who needs to fight for their life in order to save a parental figure. Right? They had just met a year before that spot in the game, but it is still terrifying. Every choice you make as Ellie, when you're in the shopping mall and there's hunters everywhere, every choice you make, you're not making for yourself. You're making for another character. If you lose during that Ellie segment, which I have because I played the hardest mode, when you lose during that Ellie segment, you feel defeated. You feel emotionally drained. Where in Red Dead, you feel like you're living a life, right? Living a life in the frontier west. Last of Us, you feel like you're living somebody else's life. And that is an incredible accomplishment. Most games are you projecting yourself onto the characters, but in Last of Us, it's the characters projecting themselves onto you. Incredible.
Yeah, dude, that actually describes it pretty damn well.
Well, it's because I played it, so I would know.
Oh my god. Tait, in August next year, I'm going to find your ass. I'm going to take you to that damn Ferris wheel in Santa Monica, and I'm going to fling you off of it.
Well, hey, dude, aren't we meeting up in January to watch, to do the live podcast anyway?
I will fling you off of a mountain here. That's what we'll do. Oh my god.
And on the way down, I'll
Ladies and
replay
gentlemen,
Last of Us.
if you watch a walkthrough of the game, you don't know anything about the game.
Ross, there is a certain feeling, dude. A certain,
I get it.
intensity.
I get it. Because I
Yeah.
never myself experienced the intensity, the intensity of like I experienced
Decision-making,
I experienced the
the emotion,
intensity of the
yes.
story, but I didn't actually get the gameplay intensity with my heart
Right. So
that I know you get
with
from actually playing.
with the gameplay specifically, and this is my whole point of saying to play the game. Like when I tell you to play the game, it's so important. When you're playing the game, like I just said, you're living for the other character. Whether you're playing as Joel or Ellie, you're living for that other character. You're not living for yourself. Especially when you're playing as Joel, you're not living for Joel. You're living for Ellie. That's how the entire game works. So every decision you make, conserving your bullets, especially in the harder difficulties, what you craft, where you choose to play the arenas, it really does start taxing you as a character, especially when you make a mistake. So that's one thing you won't get from a walkthrough online, is that when you make a mistake in the game, it feels like a mistake. It feels bad. It feels really, really bad. When you're like there was a situation I remember when I played these where I crafted a shiv instead of a bomb. Right, the bomb would have killed the clicker pretty quickly. Right, but instead I had to sneak around and shiv it in the back of the head. The entire time Ellie is wincing, and she's a pretty tough character, and I appreciate that. But there are certain situations where she does wince and not whine, but looks genuinely scared. Right, so in that situation, a bomb would have killed that clicker immediately, but I have to sneak around it, prolonging the arena for 30 more seconds. Scarier than shit. Tense as hell. If I fail this shiv, if I fail to stab this clicker in the head, I die, this girl dies, the game ends. Even though it doesn't, but it feels that way.
And especially when the higher tier clickers show up, I mean, it's like, ugh.
Honestly, dude, I'm gonna be honest. When you're playing the game, the higher tier clickers and all of that, it feels less intense. When you're there, when you just have the 9mm, when you just have, when you craft like maybe one bomb per arena, the game is a lot more intense. When there's 3 clickers and you have a 9mm, versus like later on, like during the Ellie segment, where you're playing in the Blizzard against 10 enemies, that's less intense than the 3 clickers in a room. 3 clickers in a room, dude, when you have nothing, is scary. At the end of the game, you're a tank, and that's just because, of gameplay progression. But when you have the M16, when you have the M4, and you have the shotgun, the game just gets a lot easier, and it makes and I appreciate that so much because it makes sense in a story perspective. The game gets easier, you have more things, the game's still challenging and fun, but then at the end of the game, right, it makes sense why everything's getting easier. You hit a plateau, and the gameplay progression works with story progression, and that is not something you see every day. I feel like you kind of also get that with Red Dead, but to a very, to a less shocking degree. Yeah, no, I mean, masterfully crafted. If they can reproduce that, and I'm using if because I don't think they can, but if they can recreate that tie-in between gameplay progression and story progression, I'll be sold, just like I was in 2013. Just like I was in 2015 playing it after my memory loss. Just like I was in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. The last time I played the game was February of this year. I've played the game. I probably have close to 1,000 hours in the game. I've played it so many times. I mean, it is incredible.
Yeah, dude.
So Ross, if it's free next month, dude, you got to pick it up. Because I think it's going to be the free game for October.
God, dude, I'm excited, but also dreading it.
Playing the game?
Yeah. It's going to be crazy.
It's nuts.
For the first time myself.
Yeah, dude, I'll replay it. I'll replay it with you so we can talk about it. Or maybe I won't, because I just got Dragon Quest 11 on Switch, and it's a 100-hour game, so I gotta start working on that.
Or when we do, I'll take me like twice as long to do one mission because you've done them before. And then you'll be like, on the next call, oh yeah, I'm halfway done with the game. What?
Like in Halo, when I was just dicking around shooting grunts, and you were playing the objective. Remember when we were playing Combat Evolved, and we were in the Forerunner like temple thing.
Yeah.
And you were following 343, and I was just shooting grunts and elites. Oh, that was fun.
It was good.
But anyway, that'll have to do it for today's episode 27.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Ross, we've been doing this for over 6 months.
That's nuts. It does not feel like it's been that long. It feels like it's been more like 3.
It feels like we've been doing the podcast for a couple months, truthfully.
I mean, jeez.
Ross and I were talking, and we think it's time for a switch up. I mean, we've been here plenty.
Yeah.
So we're going to start working on that.
For sure. And actually do it this week.
Yeah.
Instead of letting another 6 days pass us by and be like, oh, gotta record the podcast again, and we still didn't talk about rebranding.
We talk about it. It's just...
Talk about it in passing, but we actually have to take strides toward it.
Absolutely.
That's all.
But
so if you guys have any suggestions for the upcoming changes to the podcast, any names that you think could work, we're thinking heavily and considering heavily doing something called unpopular something, since our opinions and conversations tend to always lean toward being unpopular. So
oh yeah,
that should do it.
Alrighty. Well, remember guys, we are inevitable. Thank you guys so much for watching.